Welcome to Final Moments, where we honor the lives of those who shaped our world. Today, we remember the voices that told our stories, the hand that wrote our history, and the minds that changed the way we see the world. From legendary writers to musical virtuosos, we take a moment to reflect on their legacies. If you find value in these tributes, please like this video and subscribe to stay updated as we remember those who left us. Let's begin. Number 1. Greg Hoard. Today, we take a moment to honor and remember a true storyteller of the game, Greg Hoard. Born on March 19, 1951 in Blocher, Indiana, Greg spent his life dedicated to sports journalism, leaving behind a legacy that won't be forgotten. He passed away on February 28, 2025, but his impact on the world of baseball writing and broadcasting remains. Greg's journey started in Blocher, Indiana, and after attending Emory University, he found his way into the world of sports journalism. He made his mark first as a writer, joining the Cincinnati Post in 1979, and later the Cincinnati Enquirer as the Reds' beat writer. His deep understanding of the game and sharp storytelling set him apart. His love for storytelling extended beyond the pages of newspapers. Greg authored books that captured the essence of sports and the people who made it special. His biography of Joe Nuxhall, Joe rounding third and heading home, remains a treasured work among Reds fans. Greg transitioned to television in 1990, taking on a new challenge as a sports anchor for WLTT-TV and later becoming the first sports director at WXIX-TV. But despite his success, he never quite felt at home in front of the camera. His heart belonged to the written word. His passion for baseball and writing led him to the Press Pros magazine, where he covered Ohio State baseball with the same dedication he had for the Reds. He was a mentor, a colleague, and above all, a friend to those who shared his love for the game. Number 2. Joseph Wambaugh. Joseph Wambaugh wasn't just a cop who wrote books, he was the writer who changed how we see cops. A former LAPD detective sergeant turned best-selling author, Wambaugh brought a gritty, unfiltered look into the lives of police officers, stripping away the glossy heroism and showing the raw human side of the badge. His work paved the way for some of the most influential crime novels, films, and TV shows of our time. Born in East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1937, Wambaugh's path to storytelling wasn't a straight line. He served in the Marine Corps, married young, and then joined the LAPD in 1960, but even as he walked the beat, he had a writer's eye, observing, noting, and eventually transforming his experiences into literature. His debut novel, The New Centurions, published in 1971 while he was still on the force, became an instant hit. Wambaugh quickly realized his calling. His second book, The Blue Knight, was another smash, and soon Hollywood came knocking. But what made his work stand out wasn't just the drama, it was the honesty. His characters weren't cardboard cutouts of justice. They were flawed, sometimes broken, and often hilarious. With The Choir Boys, he introduced dark humor to police fiction, exposing the emotional toll of law enforcement with raw storytelling. While his novels thrilled readers, Wambaugh also made a name in true crime. The Onion Field, his chilling account of the real-life kidnapping and murder of an LAPD officer, became one of the most famous crime books ever written. Later, The Blooding introduced many to the revolutionary science of DNA fingerprinting. Even as he retired from writing in 2012, his legacy endured. His Hollywood station series captured the evolving culture of the LAPD in the 21st century, proving that Wambaugh never lost his edge. On February 28, 2025, Wambaugh passed away at the age of 88. He left behind a body of work that not only entertained, but reshaped the genre of crime writing. His books were more than stories, they were lived experiences shared with the world. Number 3. Antonine Maillet. There are voices that refuse to be silenced, voices that carry the echoes of history, resilience, and culture. Antonine Maillet was one of those voices, a literary giant who gave Acadia its rightful place in the world of storytelling. Born in Bouctouche, New Brunswick in 1929, Maillet grew up surrounded by the rhythms of Acadian speech, stories passed down through generations. These stories, once whispered over kitchen tables, would one day be read and celebrated across the world. Antonine was one of 9 children. Life wasn't without hardships, though, as she lost her mother at 14 and her father a decade later. But she pressed forward, earning degrees from the Université de Moncton and Université Laval. Her passion for literature was unwavering, and her doctoral thesis on Rabelais hinted at the linguistic playfulness that would define her career. In 1971, Maillet introduced the world to La Seguin, the tough-talking Acadian washerwoman whose monologues captured both the humor and hardship of an overworked people. The play, performed over 2,000 times, became a defining moment for Acadian culture. Then came Pelagie La Charrette, a novel that redefined Acadian literature. Winning the prestigious Prix Goncourt, Maillet became the first non-European to receive the honor. It wasn't just a personal victory, it was a moment of recognition for Acadian history, language, and resilience. Her work wasn't just about history, it was about identity. Antonine Maillet didn't just tell stories, she reclaimed a language, a people, a past that had been overshadowed. Through her words, Acadians found pride, found voice. In 2022, she publicly shared a deeply personal truth. Her longtime relationship with actress and theater director Mercedes Palomino. Even in her personal life, Maillet embodied authenticity and courage. On February 17, 2025, Antonine Maillet passed away in her sleep at home in Montreal, but the stories she gave the world will never fade. Number 4, Maria Tipo. Maria Tipo, a pianist of extraordinary depth, often described as a connoisseur's musician whose name may not have always been on the lips of the general public, but who, among those who knew, was an undeniable force in the world of classical music. Born in Naples on December 23, 1931, Tipo was introduced to the piano by her mother, Acilia Cavallo, herself a pupil of Ferruccio Busoni. Rather than growing up with recordings, Maria learned music by listening to her mother play. From this intimate connection to music, she developed a sound that was uniquely her own, expressive, articulate, and deeply personal. Under the guidance of legendary teachers like Alfredo Casella and Guido Agosti, Tipo's talent quickly flourished. At just 17, she won the prestigious Geneva International Music Competition, a victory that catapulted her into the international spotlight. 3 years later, she placed 3rd at the Queen Elizabeth competition, drawing praise from none other than Arthur Rubinstein, who called her the most exceptional talent of our era. Her debut at New York's Hall in 1955 marked the beginning of an impressive career. Critics marveled at her verve, confidence, and remarkable technique. She played more than 300 concerts, performing with some of the world's greatest orchestras, including the Berlin Philharmonic, the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and the London Symphony Orchestra. Her groundbreaking 1955 recording of 12 Scarlatti sonatas, completed in just 4 hours, was hailed as the most spectacular record of the year by Newsweek. She took a different approach than Vladimir Horowitz, emphasizing her Neapolitan roots. He was Horowitz, I'm from Naples, she once said with charismatic wit. Despite her success on stage, Tipo found herself drawn to a different calling, teaching. She devoted decades to shaping the next generation of pianists at institutions like the Florence Conservatory and the Scuola di Musica di Fiesole. Her students, including Fabio Bedini, Nelson Gorner, and Andrea Lucassini, went on to win international recognition, carrying her influence into the future. Her contributions were recognized with numerous accolades, including the Ordre des Arts et des Lettres and Premio Presidente della Repubblica. On February 10, 2025, Maria Tipo passed away at the age of 93, leaving behind a legacy not just of recordings and performances, but of inspiration. She was, in the words of critic Pierre Joris, a knight-errant battling for the ideal of beauty. Number 5. Martin E. Marty. Martin E. Marty wasn't just a historian, theologian, or professor. He was a bridge between scholarship and the public, between faith and reason, between the past and the present. For nearly a century, he dedicated his life to understanding and explaining religion's role in shaping society. Born in 1928 in West Point, Nebraska, Marty's early life was deeply rooted in the Lutheran faith. He studied at Concordia Seminary before earning his PhD at the University of Chicago, where he would spend the majority of his career. But Marty was never confined to the walls of academia. As a Lutheran pastor, he engaged with real-world issues, marching in Selma for civil rights and serving as a Protestant observer at the Second Vatican Council. His work helped shape how we understand the intersection of faith, politics, and culture in America. His writing was prolific, over 60 books and thousands of articles. He explored Protestantism's role in America, analyzed fundamentalism worldwide, and made religious scholarship accessible to a broader audience. He didn't just document history, he helped define it. For Marty, teaching was his greatest joy. He mentored over 130 doctoral students, many of whom became leading scholars themselves. He believed that education wasn't just about knowledge, but about fostering thoughtful dialogue. His legacy extends beyond books and lectures. The Martin Marty Center for the Public Understanding of Religion continues his mission, bringing scholarly perspectives into public discourse, and his influence lives on through the countless students, readers, and thinkers he inspired. Martin E. Marty passed away in 2025 at the age of 97, leaving behind not just a body of work, but a way of thinking, a commitment to curiosity, understanding, and the belief that religion isn't just a private affair, but a public force. Number 6. Pierre Joris. Some poets walk through life leaving behind echoes of their words. Others, like Pierre Joris, shape the very landscape of literature itself. Today, we remember a man who spent a lifetime dancing between languages, cultures, and continents, bringing poetry, translation, and critical thought to new heights. Pierre Joris was more than a poet. He was a bridge, a nomad, a voice that refused to be confined by borders. Born in Strasbourg, France on July 14, 1946, and raised in Luxembourg, he was a traveler at heart. From Europe to North Africa to the United States, his life was an unfolding journey of discovery, expression, and connection. Joris first set out on a path in medicine, but soon realized that his true calling lay in poetry. At Bard College, he honed his craft and began shaping what would become one of the most profound and boundary-pushing literature careers of our time. He wasn't just a poet, he was an editor, a translator, and an essayist. His dedication to bringing voices across languages into conversation was evident in his groundbreaking work with Jerome Rotenberg on Poems for the Millennium, a collection that redefined the avant-garde. But perhaps one of his most enduring contributions was his translations of Paul Celan, ensuring that Celan's haunting, powerful words reached new generations. His work, Breath Turned into Time's Dead, remains a testament to his meticulous artistry in bringing poetry across linguistic divides. Beyond the words on the page, Joris was a husband, a father, and a creative force alongside his wife, performance artist Nicole Parafit. Their contributions blurred the lines between poetry, visual art, and music, an extension of Joris's belief in the fluidity of art. Even in his later years, Pierre Joris remained as prolific as ever. In 2020, he was honored with the Batty Weber Award for Lifetime Literary Achievement in Luxembourg. His final works, including Interglacial Narrows and Always the Many, Never the One, remind us of his unwavering dedication to the written word. Pierre Joris passed away on February 27, 2025 at the age of 78, but his words will never fade. They remain in the spaces between languages, in the rhythms of his poetry, and in the voices of those he influenced.